After Iron Man was a huge success in 2008, Marvel realized that they have a problem. They can see this movie as a massive success if they go bigger, as they would say. They need a huge cast, bigger characters, a set for the future, but making a sequel to an already iconic, established film isn't easy. But an Iron Man 2 will become one of the most important and most conflicted films in the early days of the MCU. This is the story of Iron Man 2, the movie that introduced Black Widow, redefined War Machine, and quietly showed the cracks forming in Marvel's expanded universe. Welcome back to Nate Reviews, and this is the road to Avengers Doomsday. When Iron Man was released back in 2008, it was supposed to be a phenomenon, but it did. And suddenly, Marvel Studios was no longer an experiment. It was a franchise factory. To establish more, Iron Man 2 had to continue Tony Stark's story, introduce new heroes, set up the Avengers, and keep audiences hooked. All at once. That pressure pretty much made the film a spaghetti mess. And I'll explain that in a bit. But let's continue on. Iron Man 2 opens up with Tony Stark who has lost everything. His fame, power, control of his technology, but his arc reactor isn't doing pretty well. So the arc reactor is actually poisoning his blood, and this version of Tony Stark is a little more reckless, arrogant, and inspiring. It's intentional. Iron Man 2 isn't just about becoming a hero. It's about what happens after you already became one. One of Iron Man 2's most important contributors to the MCU was Natasha Romanoff. At the time, Scarlett Johansson was already a respected actress, but not yet an action icon. So when Marvel casted her as a mysterious assistant in the movie, it was like the start for something new for her. And it wasn't just an eye for candy or sideball. Black Widow was Marvel's first female superhero introduction in the MCU alone. She's a skill, strategic, and dangerous, and completely underestimated. Johnson brought the sobriety, physicality to a role, but this movie didn't just explore her backstory. It planted her seeds. And from there on, we would later see in the MCU her backstory, which I wish could have seen in later MCU, but that'll be a future video. From here, Scarlett Johansson become one of the most longest running pillars in the MCU. Iron Man didn't just introduce her. It created her in a cinematic legacy, which I myself find it pretty cool and interesting. And then there's the casting change fans noticed immediately. In 2008, James Rhodey Rhodes was played by Terrence Howard. In Iron Man 2, the role switched. It went to Don Cheadle. And do you want to know why that was changed? Well, it all came down to money contracts. Terrence Howard was reportedly the highest paid actor in the first Iron Man movie, even more than RDJ. But after Iron Man's success, Marvel renegotiated contracts. Howard's pay was significantly reduced in the sequel. So, he stepped out the sequel and Marvel moved on. So, Don Cheadle officially stepped in the shoes of Rhodey. So this one was more different than the previous one that we saw in Iron Man 1. This Rhodey was more grounded, more disciplined, and behaved as a military officer. His version of Rhodey felt like the natural counterbalance of Tony Stark. And Iron Man 2 finally gave him something that we have been wanting to see in a live movie for a while. The War Machine armor. It wasn't just a suit upgrade. It was a statement. Iron Man technology was no longer just Tony Stark's. And Don Cheadle went on to go define Rhodey for the rest of the MCU. As for many fans today, it's hard to imagine anyone else in that role. And I find the role pretty great. So shout out to Don Cheadle for his amazing performance in that Iron Man that film and the rest of the MCU. And unfortunately, there's the criticism for Iron Man 2. This movie has so many balls juggling like you're a jester trying to attempt to wow an entire audience. The movie's juggling Tony Stark's illness, Whiplash, Justin Hammer, Black Widow's introduction, War Machine's debut, and S.H.I.E.L.D.'s expansion, and some Avengers setup. It's less than a standalone story, more than a bridge film. Marvel was building something pretty bigger, and Iron Man 2 really did pay the price. So Ivan Funko, aka Whiplash, had a pretty strong concept. His family was destroyed by Stark's legacy, but it just felt a bit overdeveloped in my opinion from when I watched it for myself. And Justin Hammer, played by the brilliant actor Sam Rockwell, stole the spotlight. Hammer represented everything Tony could have been without accountability. In many ways, Hammer, not Whiplash, was the film's true antagonist. And I like how the world building of how it is. There's so many great scenes in Iron Man 2 that I enjoy. For example, like the race car fight scene in when Iron Man first encountered Whiplash, and my favorite armor, the Iron Man Mark V. That was a pretty good one. And also, I want to show you guys, I enjoy the Iron Man armor Mark VI, which is personally one of my favorite Iron Man armors. It was pretty cool, and I gotta say some action scenes were pretty good and decent, but I just felt like the story was dragging on a bit too much. And I just find it pretty fascinating how Iron Man 2 was when it came back in 2010. So Iron Man 2 doubles down the world building. Nick Fury, Agent Coulson, Avengers Initiative. It was no longer just being subtle. They're telling audiences this is all a connected universe. Whether fans like it or not, the MCU was officially moving full steam ahead. No pun. That was a good pun. Well, Iron Man 2 wasn't just a perfect movie. It was intentional. It proved the MCU wasn't just a one-hit wonder. And this was learning how Marvel to juggle a universe. And sometimes you just have to stumble to learn how to fly. And despite everything, I still find Iron Man 2 pretty decent. And it was a pretty worthy cash grab, in my opinion. Next time on Avengers Doomsday, this time we go beyond the stars as we are introduced to the next member of the Avengers, the God of Thunder himself, Thor. And I can't wait to tell you all about that video, and it'll be pretty worth watching. And as this movie will be prepared for something truly cosmic. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel, Nate Reviews, and tell me in the comments, was Iron Man 2 underrated or overstumped? This is Nate Reviews, and the road goes on. Ciao.